All right, good evening and welcome. I am Rorschach with the Game Reactionists, and I am doing my own Rorschach Reacts to the state of gaming for the year of 2023. And what a year it was! It was jam-packed with a lot of great releases, a lot of fun video games to play. So I've made a quick list of the games that I've played, that I own, and I'll be talking about those, keeping it kind of brief because there was a lot. So as you can see in the background here, first off we have Dead Space. Here's my own personal copy. The gameplay footage that you'll see in the background, for posterity's sake, is a combination of my own personal video gameplay footage, Spectre's gameplay footage of any games he may have played, and then various gameplay footage from the likes of IGN, GameSpot, Nintendo of America, things of that nature. But right out the gate in January of 2023, we had Dead Space Remake, and it was a pretty solid remake. I enjoyed it. They really rebuilt the game from the ground up. It was redone not only visually, but with updated audio, updated voice recording, updated mechanics. Very solid game. I loved it. It was great. So, again, keeping it brief here. So we're going to move right along. I've already gotten everything ready here, too. So, next up, in February, this was probably my... I don't know, how do I want to call it? It was a fantastic shadow drop. It was a surprise that nobody really saw coming. A lot of rumors for it, but it wasn't really made official until Nintendo dropped it during one of their directs in the February of this year. Metroid Prime Remastered. Not a full remake, but updated with prettier visuals, tighter mechanics. Played through this, enjoyed it, had a blast with it. Really got me excited for Metroid Prime 4, even though we haven't seen anything of it except for a teaser that was dropped like back in 2017, believe it or not. And it's pretty wild. I really hope that things are going along smoothly for Metroid Prime 4. Would love to see a remaster of Metroid Prime 2 and 3, and I hope Nintendo keeps this franchise fresh and living, so to speak. So that was February. We get into one of the biggest controversies of the year of 2023, Hogwarts Legacy. Why was this game controversial? J.K. Rowling made some factual observations regarding biology and science with regards to human anatomy and sex, and people apparently didn't like that. Called for a boycott, called for protests of the game, don't play the game or you're a bigot. It was the biggest failed boycott and protest in modern history, in my opinion. Hogwarts became one of the best-selling games for 2023, and yet it was snubbed entirely by Jeff Keighley in the Video Game Awards for 2023. That's, in my opinion, I made a separate video on that. Pretty unforgivable. This was a very solid game. I don't care much for Harry Potter anymore these days, in terms of the movies or the universe, but there was a lot of love and care put into this game. You could tell the developers were really excited about working with this. J.K. Rowling herself had nothing to do with this game, so really all these people wanting to, destroy the livelihoods of those who worked on this game were completely in the wrong, in my opinion. Solid game. I do recommend it. Did not hang on to my copy because this is one of those games where once I finished it, I was pretty much done with it. I didn't care to 100% it or anything. A lot of collectibles, a lot of things to do. It was a huge open world game, and I just didn't have the time to keep it, to continue to 100% it. Something I forgot to do already is show off the games that I own. Here's my Metroid Prime Remastered. So there's that. Don't own a copy of Hogwarts Legacy anymore, but I do recommend it. If you haven't played it, it's probably rather cheap nowadays. It's available on pretty much all platforms. I do recommend picking that up and enjoying it, especially if you're a Harry Potter fan. Moving right along was Another one of those I wasn't expecting to be any good, but I did play. I haven't finished it, but I did play it. Was Atomic Heart, which also came out in February. In fact, three of the 4 games I've announced already, 3 of them came out in February. So it's a good time that that's around tax season for a lot of people. So you could pick up these games. This Atomic Heart did launch on Game Pass for Xbox. So when I still had Game Pass, I was able to check it out and enjoy it. And it, from what I played so far, it was a lot of fun. It's basically a Bioshock style game, kind of set in a dystopian alternate universe, and gameplay was fun. Everything that I played of it was fun. It was just one of those where it kind of fell on the back burner compared to everything else that came out over the course of 2023. So the next game that I kind of picked up on a whim was Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe. Uh, very good, very solid game. I like getting these style games on the Switch because I am a family man. I do play video games with my wife and family, and so games like these are kind of a no-brainer for us. Really fun to play, really lighthearted. It is pretty easy, so it's great if you've got younger children who are getting into gaming. But it was solid. I enjoyed it, and there's a lot of extra features with the game outside of the main campaign, so to speak, for Kirby. So if you're a Nintendo fan, Kirby fan, this is definitely another no-brainer. So next one, another big release for me. Spectre as well. I know he was a fan of this. This was probably one of my favorites of 2023, the Resident Evil 4 remake. This is my steelbook that I got with my collector's edition. Came out in March, right around my birthday. And, God, this remake, I'm a huge Resident Evil fan. I think I am the Resident Evil fan. No pun intended. And I was really skeptical about this remake because Capcom has been doing the Resident Evil remakes. Resident Evil 2 remake was really good. Had some minor complaints with it, but overall I enjoyed it. Resident Evil 3 remake comes out, and I'm a huge Resident Evil 3 Nemesis fan. I love Nemesis in general. I really liked the mechanics that were introduced in it in the original version. So I was really looking forward to the remake, and they fumbled it hard. It was very disappointing, and I understand that there was a separate team working on Resident Evil 3 remake because the main Capcom team was working on Resident Evil Village still at the time. So I was very skeptical because Resident Evil 4, for me, the original release, it did what the series needed in terms of revitalizing it and refreshing it for its audience and kind of, getting away from that stale taste that was clearly going on. Like, sales were dwindling with the games and people were getting bored with the same old style. Plus, people were complaining about the tank controls. And so they did what they needed to do. They changed the camera view so it was over the shoulder, made it a little bit more action focused, and it did well. Unfortunately, it was the catalyst for the onslaught of very bad Resident Evil games to come after that. I mean, you had Resident Evil 5, Resident Evil 6, Operation Raccoon City. I think there was one other one that I can't even remember, and why would I want to anyway? So yeah, I was skeptical about this. Played through the demo. I loved it. And the more I read about it as it was getting closer to release, the more I saw about it, it was like, oh man, this is getting to be to a point where it can't fail. And sure as hell, it came out, and it was fantastic. To me, it was a perfect remake since Resident Evil 1 remake on GameCube. They did cut content and reworked content as well. And I'm one of those who kind of opposes well, not kind of. I do oppose cutting content when you're remaking a game. If you're going to remake a game, keep everything in it as it is, and then just update the audio and the visuals. That's all you really need to do, especially if it's a big title like this one. Then rumors started coming around about Separate Ways coming out as a DLC, and there were some fans who were groaning, oh man, they're trying to nickel and dime us, and it's a money grab, blah, blah, blah. What people forget is Resident Evil 4, originally released on GameCube, did not have Separate Ways. I think it had Assignment Ada, but even still, that was not Separate Ways. Or maybe I'm getting the two mixed up. Either way, you didn't get the full Resident Evil 4 experience until it was later ported on the PlayStation 2, which at the time you would have had to purchase for an additional $50, because that's what the games were retailing back then. So you paid $10 for the Separate Ways DLC, which came out, I believe, in August or September of this year. And that was fantastic. Reworked the cut content into that DLC. And from there became, in my opinion, the pivotal release for Resident Evil 4. I think this version is the superior version of Resident Evil 4. It does everything so much better. You know, the addition of the knife combat, the pairing with the knife, it's a lot more fun. You know, you can't cheese your way through this game as easily as you could through the original Resident Evil 4. You know, every headshot in the original Resident Evil 4 was pretty much a stagger, and then you just knife them to death. This one, you shoot them in the head, they're likely not going to care. So, very solid game. Spent a little bit more time on this one, but I just really wanted to go over it because I really enjoyed it. Moving right along, well, I guess we're doing back-to-back loves of mine, was Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. This is my steelbook from the collector's edition. We've done a box opening for that. Tears of the Kingdom is one of those quintessential love stories. It's one of those where, you know, once the honeymoon was over, do I feel the same about the game as I did originally? I kind of went through the same thing with Breath of the Wild. Really loved Breath of the Wild. And then after I was done with it, after some time had passed, I realized it was good. It's not great. And I think the same can be said with Tears of the Kingdom. And I think it's more of a factor of any of these open world games where you have these big, expansive, beautiful looking open world games with all these different things you can do, all these side quests, you know, where you're going to put 60, 70, 80 plus hours into the game. But then there's no replay value in that. And for me, one of the biggest things that I've always loved about Zelda as a franchise is the replay value. Beating Ocarina of Time in a matter of 8 hours or less, and then starting up a new game and playing it again, because I know it wouldn't take up as much time. Nowadays, as you get older, as a lot of you may know, you don't have that time, you know? So I love Tears of the Kingdom. I just kind of wish we would get something like an Ocarina of Time or a Majora's Mask, Twilight Princess, where can we not make every game these big open world games? The story was great though. The graphics were great. This game has no business working and running as well as it does on a Switch, and yet somehow it does. So kudos to Nintendo. I really loved it. And I still play around with it on occasion. You know, finishing up the Korok seeds, looking for the missing pieces of armor that I don't have yet. And it's just a very beautiful game. The reintroduction of Ganondorf, the expanded upon story of the universe. It's just, I loved it. Ganondorf was awesome. Very, very good game. This is one that I haven't played yet, but I own. And it's the Pikmin 1 and 2 remaster. And I kind of bought the Pikmin games, just for my own collection. I don't really have much to say about them. I don't know much about them. I've never played them. But I own them in my collection. I'm a big Nintendo fan, big supporter of Nintendo, and I like to see Nintendo succeed because, in my opinion, they're the only company right now that's consistently putting out a quality product for gamers. And that's a separate video for a separate time. But yeah, that's pretty much all I can say about Pikmin 1 and 2. All you Pikmin fans, I hope you loved it. Hope it worked out well for you. Hope it played well. I just haven't gotten there yet. One day I will. The next game was another big release, and I've already been messing up here, so we'll backtrack a little bit. Resident Evil 4 came out in March. Zelda came out in May. Pikmin 1 and 2 came out in June. And then the next one here is Final Fantasy 16 on the PlayStation 5. So, played through the demo of this, and this is already like the feel, the look of the game, the look of the characters. This is my style Final Fantasy game. It's kind of got that like medieval, almost steampunk look to it, I feel. So I really can't wait to sink my teeth into this and play it. It's another one of those. A friend of mine just beat it. It's another one of those 75-hour games. And I think that'll be one I try to get after before Final Fantasy VII Rebirth comes out. But from what I've played, I enjoyed it. I look forward to enjoying it further. There are just some other games I'm messing around with right now. Moving right along. Kind of mentioned this already. We got Pikmin 4 for the Nintendo Switch. Another thing I'll notice about 2023 is it felt like a big year for Nintendo. I mean, I'm looking at the games that I have set aside here, just the ones that I own, and 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them are Nintendo games out of 17. So Pikmin 4 came out in July, did really well, sold really well. Haven't played it. Can't really say much about it for you. So that's pretty much all I can say about Pikmin. And yeah, so we're gonna keep her moving here and move to the next one. Now this one is probably my darling of 2023. I am a definite resident fan of From Software games. Love Elden Ring, love Demon Souls, love Dark Souls, love Bloodborne. Still reworking my way through Sekiro. But Lies of P from NeoWiz Games came out this year. It's a Soulborne style game, and with a Pinocchio twist on it. So you're playing as Pinocchio. The puppets have risen up against their masters and killed them all, and you have to save the day as Pinocchio. That's kind of the synopsis of the story in a nutshell. Haven't finished it yet, but this came out in September, and I probably played a good 8 or so hours of it. If not more. Got through quite a few bosses, and then it kind of got overtaken by another game I was looking forward to, but I severely regret that decision, and we'll get to that game shortly here. We'll talk about that. That's coming up here. But Lies of P, if you're a Soulsborne fan, if you like these style games, highly recommend it. Great looking game, plays really well. It's almost a little bit. Some people differ, say one thing and then other people say another. I've heard people say that they think this is harder than Soulsborne games. I personally don't feel that way. I think it is a milder Soulsborne style game in terms of difficulty, but it still has its challenges. Even the Parade Master, which is the first boss, he kind of gave me a little bit of trouble when I was first playing through this. So, very, very good game. Highly recommend it. Please play it, because NeoWiz Games did it right, and from what I understand, they're a small developer. I want to see them succeed. Moving right along, Uh, Another one that was kind of shadow dropped but heavily rumored was the Red Dead Redemption remaster. And I am currently playing through that right now. I am a big Red Dead Redemption fan. I loved Red Dead Redemption 1 when it first came out. I loved Red Dead Redemption 2. And this remaster's been fine so far. It has had its own controversies as well. Uh, there's no PC release of this. It came out at a $50 price point, and there was no real upgrades for it at launch in terms of performance and visuals. Since October, they did add a 60 frames per second mode, but so far, from what I've read, it's only been confirmed for the backwards compatible PlayStation 5 version. Either way, it's been working well for me. I am playing the PS4 version on my PS5, so it's up to you to decide if you think it's worth $50 or not. This one I got. I'll be honest, I don't know why I got this one. I saw the trailer on it. I thought it looked cute. I have younger kids, so I thought it'd be something they enjoyed. And it is. They enjoy the talking Pikachu. And that's... So, if I play it, it's primarily around them and kind of having them take control of it. I really don't have much to say. It's an easier LA Noir style game set in a Pokemon universe. That's really the best I can say about it. And I already messed up again. Red Dead Remastered, by the way, came out in August. Detective Pikachu Returns came out on October 6th. So it's a cute game. If you have kids, if you have a Switch, it's kind of a no-brainer. You can't go wrong with Pokemon. All right. So, here is the bummer of the evening. Spider-Man 2. I made quite an extensive video on this. I'm not going to spend much time on it. This game sucks. Sometimes when you play a sequel, you think you won't ever go back to the original because the sequel is superior. Some examples of that, in my opinion, would be like God of War Ragnarok, or even more recently, Tears of the Kingdom. Breath of the Wild was great. God of War 2018 was great. But with the enhanced features and mechanics in the newer games, why would I go back to the originals? I do not think there's any reason to play Spider-Man 2 when you can play Spider-Man 2018 and have a far better experience. This is crap, and this is from Dan Allen Gaming. This is crap that you do in Marvel Spider-Man 2. You play as a deaf woman, and they remove the sound from the game so that you understand what it's like to be deaf. This game is garbage, and I don't really have anything else to say about it. I pointed out my controversies with it in my review video. It got nominated for 7 awards at the Video Game Awards for 2023. And it won a big fat 0 of them. It got blanked. And my God, was I happy about that. So I guess that's actually not a controversy. That's a great win. Because either it shows either Jeff Keighley also hated this game, or fans really didn't care for it either. Either way, I'm glad it failed. Insomniac, you suck. I'm not playing any of your games. I'm glad that your stuff got leaked. I'm not glad about, employees' personal information getting leaked, but I'm glad Wolverine got leaked. And I'm glad your timetable or whatever releases got leaked. You guys suck. Do better. Seriously, stop with this garbage. Another darling of mine, Super Mario Brothers Wonder. And regrettably, I didn't capture any of my own gameplay footage of this. And I should have. Because when I started playing this game, I couldn't put it down. It was fantastic. Super Mario Brothers Wonder really somehow innovated the 2D style platforming of the Mario games. Because each level had its own unique, I guess gimmick is the word you can use. You have these wonder flowers, and when you run into them, the world itself transforms, and then you do something completely different to get that wonder seed, and that bonus wonder seed for that level. So it was a very solid game. This is one I did 100%. I got all the wonder seeds you could get. I collected all the bonus coins, all that stuff. Beat everything in the bonus worlds. It was a very solid game. It was just fun. After Spider-Man 2 and the hatred that I went through that game, it really put a bad taste in my mouth when it came to gaming. So it was nice to just play a fun game with no socio-political nonsense and garbage in it. Highly recommend. If you're a Mario fan, a gaming fan, a Nintendo fan, any type of, or like I said, just any type of video gaming fan, this is a game you should be playing. And then moving right along, another release of mine, and this was one I kind of bought out of obligation, and that is the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1. You actually get a lot in this game. You get Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3, which came out on the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 respectively. You also got the MSX versions of Metal Gear 1 and 2. You also got the NES versions of Metal Gear 1 and 2, which were not authorized and worked on by Hideo Kojima and are infamous for being bad. You also got the digital graphic novels from Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2, and you got soundtrack audio files. So you got a lot in this package. And as a Metal Gear fan of the original series, Metal Gear really lost me with Metal Gear Solid 4. Metal Gear Solid 5, I really loved the gameplay, but what I always enjoyed about those games was the combination of the fun gameplay experience and the fun narrative experience. There was just no real entertaining narrative experience in Phantom Pain or Ground Zeroes. These were all games, by the way, between Detective Pikachu and Metal Gear Solid Master Collection. These were all games that came out in October. There was some controversy with the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection. Start with the Switch versions. The Switch version is the inferior version. It only runs at 30 frames per second, whether it's docked or not. The PS2 version of Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 ran at 60 frames per second, so I'm having trouble understanding how they couldn't get it to run at 60 frames on Nintendo unless it was just pure laziness by Konami. I don't know if I would consider this a controversy. People were upset about this though. The games so the Switch version, the only games on the actual cartridge were the MSX and NES games, so Metal Gear 1 and 2. Everything else you got through a digital download code. Now, I am completely against digital games. I don't buy them. I bought the Switch copies to have a physical copy. Had I known that there were digital copies for the Metal Gear Solid 1 through 3 on the Switch, I probably wouldn't have bought it on Switch. But I did buy it on PS5 and Xbox, so there's that. All versions, regardless of you getting the Switch, the PlayStation 5, the Steam, or the Xbox version, were at 1080p with no 4K upgrades at launch. Of course, modders for the PC version, we're able to mod it into 4K. Even though Konami said there was no way to get it to 4K. It's kind of like, this was advertised to be in 4K from what I recall. If you're not going to release it at 4K, Konami, that's fine, but don't advertise it as such. And then, of course, like pretty much all other releases, you have various bugs and performance issues with the games. Now, there have been updates that have been consistently going out since it launched to address performance issues, bugs within the games, trophy issues, achievement issues. One thing that hasn't been addressed yet is there's no known 4K version that's being released, and there's no notice on whether or not that's coming out. That's a little bit of a disappointment, but it is what it is. It's tough to say if I would recommend this. If you have the HD collection for 360 and PS3, you probably have the same version as the Master Collection, so there's no real reason to get this, if I'm being honest. If you want to take it on the go with you, and you have a Switch, and you want to be able to play these fantastic games on the go at any given time, that's a pretty fair reason to do it. Moving right along, this is another one of those games that I kind of just bought because, Nintendo is good for... If they're good for one thing, they're good for these wacky party games. And it's WarioWare Move It. And I've never played a WarioWare game before this. But this was fun. It gets you active. You'll work up a sweat with some of these games. But it is pretty goofy. It's pretty entertaining. You'll laugh with your friends and family. And it's kind of nice to get everybody engaged and, just goof around, which is, when I was growing up, that's kind of what video games were all about, having fun, goofing around. Not everything has to be these drawn out 80-hour experiences, where these video games are basically movies. Sometimes you just want to pick something up and have a laugh, and this is perfect for that. And then the last game on my list of games that I own is Super Mario RPG. Right there. Sorry about the glare. This is another one I haven't played yet. I've never even played the original Super Nintendo version. And I couldn't tell you why. I never played the Super Nintendo version because I had a Super Nintendo. Still have one, actually. And I am a big Mario fan. But I did pick this up. I do intend to play this. It looks great. It looks like a lot of fun. Turn-based RPG. Mario characters. Can't go wrong with that. So, that wraps up the segments of games that I've played for 2023, games that I own. Now, we got to kind of look to... one other thing. I mean, that's not even the games that's not even everything. I mean, there were other big 2023 releases, whether you've played them or not, whether you like them or not. These are games that came out. Dead Island 2, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Diablo 4, Forspoken, Wolong Fallen Dynasty, Street Fighter 6, Redfall, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, Fire Emblem Engage, Starfield, Armored Core 6, Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, which rightfully, in my opinion, won Game of the Year, Mortal Kombat 1. I mean, my God. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 30 plus games. And these are all primarily AAA titles. We're not even talking about, any potential indie titles that are great games. I don't really mess around with a whole lot of the indie games. Maybe I should, because I'm losing more and more confidence in the AAA space, but it's kind of where we're at. Some nice surprises from this year. I think the two biggest surprises for me was the Metroid Prime remastered Shadow Drop back in February. And then we did get DLC for God of War Ragnarok for free. And it was actually some pretty good, meaningful DLC. So it's nice to see Sony Santa Monica supporting that game still, giving a little love letter to the fans, and showing their appreciation. So what do we got to look forward to 2024? Well, I can tell you games that I'm either looking forward to or just familiar with in terms of what I think will be big releases. Tekken 8, I think, will be a big release. Mario vs. Donkey Kong, that's a game that I'm looking forward to. I think that will be a successful release. I don't think it's going to sell Tears of the Kingdom amounts of copies, but I think it'll do well. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, very much looking forward to that. Rise of the Ronin, looking forward to that. Dragon's Dogma 2, really expecting that to do very well. Destiny 2, The Final Shape, is supposed to be the swan song in terms of Destiny 2 and its content. I will be taking a pass of that. And probably my most anticipated title is Black Myth Wukong. That looks like a Soulsborne style game, and it looks like it just looks awesome. Definitely check out the trailer for that. That was announced, I think, either during the Video Game Awards or the most recent PlayStation State of Play from 2023. Colossal Failure for 2024 is definitely going to be Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. I think that game has just no chance of being any type of success at all. I think it's going to be hot garbage. And I don't think it's going to work out well at all for Rocksteady, which is a shame because the Arkham games are great, and why they're doing this live service crap is beyond me. I think this is a PlayStation exclusive. I can't remember, though. I don't really care. I do know that Sony has pretty much killed all of their live service projects, which is good. Not everything has to be a live service game. There are plenty of games on the list and plenty of games that I own that prove you don't need live service games to be successful. Some games that I'm looking forward to with release dates. I really want to see a release date announced for Metal Gear Solid Delta. From what I've seen, Konami's already dropped some gameplay footage of it with the new engine, and it just looks phenomenal. I really would love to see a release date announced for that. And maybe a Switch 2 announcement. I really don't think that's going to happen this year, and if it does, it's going to be the end of the year. I don't think a Switch 2 or Nintendo's next console is going to come anytime before 2025. What I would like Nintendo to do is to finally port Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD onto the Switch. You've ported every Wii U game, every other Wii U game, except for those two. Please stop sitting on them and just do it already. Anyway, that's kind of that is my reaction to 2023. It was jam-packed. Most of these I've started playing. Some of them I've finished. Some of them I haven't. I intend to. Hopefully 2024 doesn't get any huge announcements. I looked at a list and there's some like 50 plus games that are rumored to be coming out this year and just don't have release dates yet. I hope none of them are games I care about. As it stands right now, 2024 has 1, 2, 3, 4 definitive games that I'm looking forward to. I'm cool with it just being 4. So, anyway, I am Rorschach with the Game Reactionists. I know Spectre put out his own 2023 reflection, so be sure to check out that video, and be sure to check out any of our content that drop. If you haven't already and you like this kind of content, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We will continue to bring out fresh content as we can. One thing I noticed is we don't have a whole lot of gameplay content, and I do hope to change that for our current audience and any potential new audience members as well, so that you can actually see us react to the games that we play in real time. I have been Rorschach. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening.